Elden Ring is the perfect Souls game, and that's it. This game just wins. I mean, wow, I have not played a game this compelling in years. There is not one thing that Elden Ring doesn't execute perfectly. This entire game is just a complete joy to play, and I absolutely adore it. If you aren't familiar with Elden Ring, it's almost like Dark Souls, only it takes place in a massive open world with a brand new cast of characters. The world is top-notch, the gameplay has been perfected, and the graphics are absolutely stunning. Elden Ring is undoubtedly one of, if not my favorite game of all time, and I could not recommend it anymore. I'm Chepek, and this is Elden Ring. Elden Ring takes place in the lands between, and it follows you on your quest to slay the Shardbearers in order to become an Elden Lord. This game will have you travel all over the insanely detailed map on a journey that's nothing short of incredible. It's not difficult to make a large map in a video game, but filling that map with unique locations and personality makes every difference. So having the map of Elden Ring be both gargantuan and packed with content is such a testament to the love and care that was put into creating this beautifully crafted world. Everywhere you turn, there is something to be found. Time and time again, you will be rewarded for exploring every single location to its fullest, and the amount of content that is provided is just astounding. Simply saying that there is so much to do is an understatement. From Software has made quite possibly one of the most intricate, diverse, and stunning maps in gaming, and there are simply no words for how it feels to discover something new in this massive landscape. As you travel the world, you will activate sites of grace that allow you to recover from combat and fast travel. The single biggest issue about Elden Ring's world is that you can't realistically do everything because there's just so much to be done. There are literally entire cities just casually sprinkled throughout the world. I mean, these parts feel like an entire Souls game worth of content, and they're just there, ready to be explored whenever you feel like it. This world is simply so massive that no two players will ever have the same experience. Some people have found elaborate dungeons in the very first area and spent hours on them, while others have gone the whole game instead spending their time raiding forts and enemy camps. The world is so brilliant in everything that it does, there is simply nothing I can say that would improve on it. It's got cities, castles, mountains, villages, volcanoes, dungeons, cities again, but this time underground, towers, caves, plains, corrupted landscapes, swamps, lakes, ruins, oceans, and I could go on. But I think you get the point. It's truly fantastic. Elden Ring's world is extremely compelling and will constantly take your breath away with jaw-dropping views that are so cinematic it feels like I'm playing a movie. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Not only is this world gigantic, not only is it filled to the brim with features, not only is it the single best open world map I have ever played in gaming, but the rest of the game's pretty good too. Elden Ring is traditional Souls gameplay honed to its full potential. When you start the game, you're given a choice of classes that you can pick to create your build. You can specialize in melee, you can specialize in sorcery, you can even specialize in not wearing clothes by picking the Wretch class like I did. After a quick 5-minute tutorial that I somehow completely skipped without realizing, you're out in the world and that's it. Go explore. The game stops holding your hand and lets you do whatever you want. And I don't know if it was just because I picked the Wretch class, but man, the opening to this game was fun. As a Wretch, you're forced to start off with no gear whatsoever and have to take anything you could get. Honestly, if you haven't played Elden Ring, I highly recommend your first playthrough as a Wretch. The sense of progression when you finally stumble across something half decent is so immensely satisfying, and the feeling of satisfaction is so integral to From Software games, I have to recommend starting off as a Wretch. Because yeah, I'll admit it, Dark Souls is hard, so is Demon Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, and guess what? It's no different for Elden Ring. This game will kick your butt and then make fun of you for crying. But man, if it isn't satisfying to finally defeat that one boss you've been stuck on for hours. Elden Ring will push you to your absolute breaking point, but eventually it will all click and you will finally overcome that one obstacle you've spent the last day on. Or you know, at the very least, you can just leave and come back when you're more powerful. Having the option to leave a boss for a while and go exploring the open world is incredibly refreshing. Since you have to level up with runes earned from defeating enemies, you're forced to take part in combat in order to progress, but learning to pick your battles is just as important as winning them. When I played Dark Souls 3, I'm not gonna lie with you, I was stuck on the Twin Princes fight for about a week. Call me bad, whatever. The point is, in Dark Souls, you were never given the opportunity to just leave for a bit and come back stronger. Or at the very least, when you were, there was hardly anything to do but grind small enemies for souls. In Elden Ring, however, it's a complete paradigm shift. When I was stuck on this stupid boss and could hardly do anything about it, you know what I did? I left. I left Stormvale Castle, and I just explored the open world. I fought through dungeons, completed puzzles, fought mini-bosses, just to get enough runes to level up, and when I finally did level up a bit, I went back there and I won first try, and man did it feel good. I mean, I straight up demolished that dude. I mean, wow, he was absolutely destroyed. I went back to that guy and I showed him. I mean, I absolutely... From Software has always had a way of making any win in their games feel satisfying, and I think that's one of their main appeals. Any game can have a hard boss. That's the easy part. What From Software does so brilliantly is designing the boss fights in a way that makes them fair. If you lose in Elden Ring, it's always going to be your fault. Bosses don't just randomly attack you. There's always going to be a method. You're always going to have the opportunity to read the boss and see what attack they'll do before they do it. Any kind of attack will have a read, and mastering the flow of combat in these games is being able to look at an enemy's movements, predict their next moves, and being able to respond appropriately. If you can read your enemies, you can avoid their attacks, and if you can avoid their attacks, they can't avoid yours. Elden Ring has some of the most precise hitboxes I've ever seen in a game. No more are the days of getting hit by a completely missed attack, okay? Elden Ring ain't about that. These hitboxes are crazy detailed. You can actually crouch under someone's sword to avoid being hit. I mean, the hitboxes are incredibly precise, and I can't recall any slip-ups during my playthrough. The excellent combination of telegraphed attacks and tight hitboxes puts you into a combat flow, and there are just no words for how cool it feels. The implementation of new mechanics like the Wondrous Physic can also shake up how this dance between rivals goes. Usually in FromSoft games, you attack, dodge, and heal over the course of a fight, and while this is still true in Elden Ring, you'll also be able to create and use your own Wondrous Physic. Functionally, the Wondrous Physic works about the same as drinking a flask of Crimson or Cerulean Tears, but instead of healing you or restoring your magic, it provides a unique effect that you can choose through brewing. You're able to choose 2 different effects that will go into your flask, and they can completely change how you approach combat. In my case, I made my flask completely protect me from one hit and heal me gradually over time. This allowed me to start battles by rushing straight to the boss and dealing as much damage as I could until my invincibility was expended, and it was a really effective way to get some damage at the start of a fight. This mechanic works really well against bosses, and I can totally see myself creating new brews in order to use them against normal enemy types. The standard enemies that you encounter are pretty much all unique, which is why it's so crazy that there are so many of them. There aren't just 3 or 4 enemies that are all reskinned for each encounter. There are genuinely so many different enemies that have such different movesets, I never found myself bored when it came to variety. You can even find the ashes of fallen enemies in order to summon them and have them fight for you, something that really helps out in fights and is easily accessible to builds that don't use magic. With the new addition of Torrent, your spectral steed, Elden Ring allows for horse combat, and it is some of the freshest I've seen in a video game. The horse is the perfect mix of snappy and realistic movement. You aren't Arthur Morgan out here. Your horse responds to your movements in a way that isn't totally realistic, but it's such an incredibly fun and awesome movement option, it's okay to suspend your belief. Torrent allows you to explore the lands between with so much freedom. You can dash, double jump, and soar your way to your next location, and it all feels natural. Combat also flows really well on the horse and makes battles against humongous enemies much more intuitive. It allows for these massive enemies to move more fluidly and provides tons of new opportunities for battles. This one fight that I had against a dragon was one of the coolest things in my entire playthrough, and it wouldn't be possible without the movement Torrent provides. Speaking of, Elden Ring doesn't miss on the bosses either. The dozen or so story bosses required to beat the game are extremely punishing and never miss an opportunity to beat you up. Their battles are the cream of the crop, alright? If the rest of the bosses in this game are crop, these guys, they're cream. These bosses are insane. They completely test your ability as a player and force you to restructure how you approach constantly. A favorite one of mine is this guy. He's great. It took me 4 hours to beat him. Thanks, guy. Elden Ring has some incredible optional fights too. Star Scourge Radahn is an amazing example of this. He's a massive dude on a tiny little horse, and he isn't messing around. He will find literally any reason he can to hit you with meteorites, and then he'll chop you to pieces. Radahn is a boss so incredibly powerful, you have to battle him by summoning an army of characters to help you, making him almost kind of a single-player raid boss.
Actually, Chepek, it doesn't really count if you use summons.
No. Shush. Bad person. If the enemy felled screen pops up, you win. I don't care what your stupid opinion is, these arguments are annoying as hell. And saying that Souls games can be played without multiplayer is such a terrible take. I mean, a large part of Souls games is the multiplayer interaction. There are messages that both help you and serve as a quick laugh. There are bloodstains that show how a previous player met their demise. But most importantly, there are summons. Summons can come in 2 varieties. varieties, cooperative or competitive, and it's up to you to make your choice. The gold and summon sides allow for a totally random player to join your game and help you with a boss battle, and it's neat. I've only used these signs a few times when I was in a bit of a pickle, but the multiplayer experience of sharing a completely wordless interaction with a stranger is just so cool. You're only there to beat the boss, and when you do, you just exchange a look and part ways. It's honestly such a fun interaction, and I couldn't stop smiling whenever I had a summon help me out. Competitive multiplayer, on the other hand, brings enjoyment on the basis that you're wiping the smiles off of the faces of others. How sweet. Either you completely destroy baby's first Souls game over here, or get demolished by someone straight out of the Arc character creator, but man, it's cool. My only gripe with this system is the fact that it's now optional, because as someone who played Dark Souls 3, being invaded at random points will put the fear of the air tree in you in the best way possible. Speaking of multiplayer though, it's opened me up to just how many different builds and movesets there are in this game. As far as Souls games go, I play vanilla flavor. I get the Knight's Armor, the normal longsword, and I call it a day. From that point on, all of my runes go into upgrading that gear in specific and absolutely nothing else. But when I started noticing that some phantoms carried a glowing shield, I became curious and eventually found the jellyfish shield. And this thing is great. Elden Ring has opened up even me, someone who's pretty stubborn with their gear, to new possibilities, and it's amazing. Now I haven't gotten much into magic other than some sword enchantment incantations, but it made me realize how immensely high the skill ceiling is for this game. You can use a staff to cast spells, you can use a sword, you can use a lance to pierce enemies, you can use a crossbow to shoot them. Hell, you can even use a hand-mounted cannon, Mega Man style. And that's just the beginning. There are so many weapon types and so many weapons for each of them. It might take thousands of hours alone before you finally manage to get familiar with all of them. It genuinely baffles me how much content cannot realistically be met in one playthrough. No matter how much I play, my build will never be optimized to use magic, and I'm missing out on such a large part of the game that way. But at the same time, I'm also missing points in arcane, so I could easily just become a bandit, or why not a samurai? I could use some extra points in dexterity. There is just so much replay value in Elden Ring, I could easily see myself sinking hundreds and hundreds of hours into this game through subsequent playthroughs. And there are a ton of incentives for multiple playthroughs with all the ways your choices can impact the story. Because yes, Elden Ring has a narrative, and it's really interesting. I'm not usually a big lore guy, but every now and then there are just a few games that can capture my attention and get me enthralled in their world. Souls games are much more about the gameplay than the story for me, but Elden Ring was able to get me equally invested in both. Character missions like Ronnie's quest were really compelling and were able to get me interested in not only the characters, but the lore that surrounds them and their world. Finding NPCs who ask help from you or offer you a mission is so much easier in Elden Ring due to the nature of the open world, and I found myself getting a lot more immersed in the game because of it. Characters like Bach the Seamster are genuinely charming and had me grinning the entire time I spoke to them. I just kind of wish NPCs didn't stay dead when you killed them, because I accidentally stabbed this one jellyfish NPC because this bat was attacking me, and now I can't complete their quests, so that sucks. Whatever, there's always New Game Plus. Elden Ring is just such a cool game with so much to do. The calm you'll find while exploring the landscape contrasts so well with the chaotic action you'll feel in any combat scenario. It's one of the most well-developed games I have ever played, and other than some small optimization errors on PC at launch, there is nothing Elden Ring does not execute to the highest degree. Elden Ring gets rid of tired conventions like quest logs or tower-based map exploration and gives you a gaming experience that truly does live up to the hype. The visuals are sublime. The gameplay is perfect. Elden Ring truly is the Dark Souls of From Software games. So if you're up for a challenge, I highly recommend it. With that said and done, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy game review content, and leave a comment. I read all of them, so please don't fill it with any mean words. Please. Anyways, I'll see you next time where I slowly crush the back of a very tiny horse.
Subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god.